Hello.
Hello. Yeah, we still have a few minutes. We'll start at 5 p.m. EST.
Okay, sure. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello, everyone. We'll start at 5 p.m. EST. Just stand tuned. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, depending on your time zones. Right, we got a quite a good participation here. There's still people joining. So let's see, among our team, I see Ananya, Rishik, and I see Navneeth. Yep, our entire team is in. The participants are still joining in. So good evening, everyone. For those of you who are in the West Coast, good afternoon. And we're going to have an interesting and session today. So unlike some of our other webinars, this is going to be more informal. We don't have any presentations. As the topic says, it's like a fireside chat, question and answer session format. Some of you have sent a few questions, but feel free to ask questions. Just use the chat feature, and I will keep a track on the chat, and I will moderate the questions for our spelling champs today. So let me open the chat. You can ask questions to the chat at any time. You don't need to wait until later, but I will moderate and ask at the appropriate time to our team. Let me pull the chat. Right. Can you all see the chat? I just typed hi all. Hope everybody can see where the chat box is, so you can ask questions there. All right, so let's get started. So our spelling champs here don't really need introduction. They are probably, if you are into spelling world, you know them very well. They're like the celebrities. It's my privilege today to moderate and introduce them to you. So I'll do a very brief introduction, nothing that you don't already know, but then I will invite each of them to talk a little bit about their stories, right? Their spelling journey and when they started, what inspired them, and what did they do to get there. And everybody's journey is different. Some might have done it for over a long period of time, might have been there for much longer. Some might have blossomed at a later time, and so they'll go through their story, and later on we'll get into Q&A. All right, so with that, let me start with the introductions. So I'll start with Ananya. As you all may know, Ananya is the 2017 Scripps National Spelling Bee champion. Before that, she was a California state champion for certain years. I don't know, I would let her speak to it. I knew Ananya for a few more years before that, but I did not know about her spelling prowess until she actually won the bee. So I have, and Maths Academy has been teaching a number of different subjects, and I used to teach math, critical thinking math, and she was my student, online student. I live in Atlanta and she lives in California. So I never met before that. But from probably her elementary school days, I had the privilege of teaching. She was always a curious kid, and she used to be very active and always very prompt and disciplined in our math classes. And then I knew that she was participating in NSF spelling bees and other few other spelling bees, but I, like many of our other students as well, so I didn't pay much attention. And this is 2017, I think May 31st or June 1st or whenever I opened the news and I saw her on the, I think the big screen on the TV, and I was quite, I didn't know how exactly she looked because I never met her, but I saw the name and then I texted her mom, is it same Ananya? She said, yeah, absolutely. And it was such a great thrill to me when you see your student on the big national TV for such a unique achievement. And ever since that, she has been part of our SpellGenius team. And so I'll get to that SpellGenius story probably a little bit later. So with that, I will hand over to Ananya and I'll let her go through her journey. Then after that, I'll come back to Rishik and Navneeth. All right, but feel free to ask questions anytime. Type your questions into the chat box anytime. Over to you, Ananya.
Thanks for the introduction. So I'm Ananya, and I started competing in the spelling bee when I was in second grade because my parents thought I was a little on the shy side. So they thought it'd be a good idea to sign me up for the spelling bee just for fun and to get some confidence. So when I started participating, I found out that I really did have a knack for words. So I kept on participating and learning about language. And in fourth grade, I moved to California. No, in fourth grade, I moved to a school that didn't have the spelling bee. And there, we had to start the spelling bee, but we couldn't go to the national spelling bee because there was no system for that. So I participated in the state spelling bee my first year. And to my own surprise, as a small fourth grader, I ended up winning the state spelling bee. And that provided enough encouragement to my county to start the national spelling bee. And with the support of my teachers and the school, I went to the regionals, ended up winning and going to the national spelling bee for the first time. And then I got a good score on the written test, and it was a really fun experience. But in round 3, I made a really silly mistake on a word that I knew, which is the worst kind of mistake because it's really, really avoidable. And that made me really motivated to work hard and see what I could do if I gave my all. And I studied really hard for the next year, and I ended up winning the following year. And after that, I didn't realize how much I gained from the spelling bee. I learned so much about the world, about science, history, geography, and confidence. And that gave me the confidence to join the forensics team and do impromptu speaking, to make a 5-minute speech with 2 minutes of preparation, and to participate in the National Science Bowl, which is where you have to answer questions about physics and chemistry and biology in a matter of 10 seconds. So the spelling bees really taught me a lot about the world and shaped me into who I am today. And that's my spelling journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ananya, for sharing your story. And we'll come back to you later on with some of the audience questions. So next, Rishik, as most of you probably know, is one of what's in spelling world popularly known as Octa champs, right? They created history in 2019 when Scripps ran out of the words and they had to give joint championship for 8 of them. And I'm very, very pleased to have Rishik here today. And so Rishik joined our team in 2019 after his national spelling victory. He was part of our first ever, actually not our first ever, the first ever online spelling bee ever conducted. And our SpellGenius actually is a pioneer in online spelling bees. This year we have seen probably a lot of online spelling bees, but you will be actually amazed to know that until 2019, there was not a single online spelling bee. Every single online, every spelling bee until that time was face to face in one room. And we debated a lot. So we actually have been considering it since 2018, because one of the challenges we found was in spelling bees is that not all the spellers across the country have equal opportunity to in participating high quality spelling bees conducted by experienced spellers, because you got to be local to that, especially if you are living in hinterland where you don't have access to a big market, or or you have to drive a long distance, or even locally if you are in a big metro, right? We conducted one spelling bee in actual online spelling bee in California, in the Bay Area. When I actually traveled there, Ananya and her family came over there. And in 2018, I think we conducted one in a big metro area. A lot of people still could not come because there's a lot of commute planning, etc. So we pioneered this in 2019, and Rishik was part of our inaugural online spelling bee, one of the judges and pronouncers, along with Ananya and a few of our other team members. But I will let him tell his story on his journey, what's unique to it, and over to you, Rishik.
All right, thank you for the introduction, Ram Uncle. All right, so my spelling bee journey started a long time back, around when I was in kindergarten or first grade. I was really inspired by my brother, who started spelling before me, my older brother. And yeah, one of the main reasons I started spelling was kind of that sibling rivalry that every sibling pair has. Yeah, so from there, we both continued spelling, and it kind of became part of our lives. And yes, let's see. There were a lot of failures and successes through my career as a speller, especially like when I was younger, I would make a lot of silly mistakes, but as I got more experience and spelled in more bees overall, I became more confident and studied more, became more skilled until I eventually went on and won the National Spelling Bee last year. Yeah, when I was like in maybe second or third grade, I thought spelling was only just about words and really nothing else. Now, looking back on it, there's so much that I learned from spelling and have taken away from spelling that's really made me a different person than if I had never taken it up. For example, I've learned many life skills from spelling. Yeah, like having spelling in my schedule was something that I had to account for. Obviously, some days you can't make time for spelling because school is always a priority, but managing your time and spending it on what you need to was a very important thing that I learned. Another one was goal setting, like whether it was I'll finish this many words today or I want to improve every time I participate in a spelling bee. I always try to set a goal for myself and meet it, and that motivated me to do a lot of things. And perhaps one of the most important things I learned through my journey was accepting my failures. Since it was such a long journey, it had many failures and successes, but yeah, obviously when you fail, you're going to get a little bit demotivated. You might want to quit, but I tried to never let that feeling to quit get to me. I always strove to work on those mistakes and improve myself so I would never make those same mistakes again. And yeah, it's taught me to embrace my failures instead of complaining or doing nothing about them.
Well, thank you, Rishik, for sharing your story and your journey and your lessons learned. Again, we'll come back to you later on specific audience questions. Next, Navneeth Murali. So Navneeth, if you are into, if any of you have been doing spelling for the last 1 year, you're probably pretty familiar with his name. He literally won every spelling bee in the last spelling season, including we conducted 3 online spelling bees. Our first one was last summer, July of 2019, the first ever online spelling bee ever conducted, and our own first as well. And then we conducted one more in that winter, and again one this spring. And he won all 3 of them, hands down. And not only that, every other spelling bee online, every other online or offline spelling bee conducted in the season, he was widely expected to win national spelling bee. And it was hard. If we are to follow any of those spelling blogs, you would see that it's hard to find a competitor who was close to him. Unfortunately, as many of you know, Scripps spelling bee got cancelled. Navneeth, I have no intention of making you cry, but it was heartbreaking. I mean, it was heartbreaking for most of us, just the observers, and I know how heartbreaking for him it would have been, because that was his dream. He was preparing for years, and he reached his peak, and then it got cancelled. But he took it in stride. It was a disappointment, and he took it in stride. And now I'm so glad he's part of our team, SpellGenius team. And in fact, he designed one exclusive program. I'll talk more about it later on. Vocabulary, which happens to be a big challenge for some of the really good spellers who find a little bit hard on the vocabulary side. So he designed, and he actually coaches the team, our SpellGenius. But we'll talk more about that later. But Navneeth, over to you to share your story and journey, your lessons learned.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I started my spelling journey in 3rd grade when I first participated in an SASB regional competition. After placing 3rd, I started seeing some potential in myself. I placed 3rd at the SASB Nationals and 5th at the NSF Nationals when I was in 5th grade. And I began working much, much harder from that point. And I think in the long run, my hard work paid off. I placed 5th at Scripps in 2018 and 11th in 2019. And over the past year, I've won basically every other B. I won SASB, NSF, NASCC, and all the other online national spelling bees. Along with spelling, I have a strong passion for vocabulary. I've won the intermediate vocab bee at NSF. I also ran a vocab club at my school last year, and yeah, it's something that I'm very passionate about. And spelling, it's taught me and instilled so many life lessons and values. It's taught me how to be calm under pressure, how to be resilient and bounce back from failures. Because failures are inevitable, you need to know how to bounce back from them and become a better person. And it's also taught me the importance of hard work. I feel that spelling and vocab are intertwined, and that if you understand words, their underlying roots, and the stories behind words, you'll become a much better speller, and you'll develop a passion for spelling as well. So, yeah.
All right, thank you, Navneeth. All right, so next, what I'll do is look at some of the questions. I think there are many questions surrounding one topic, one or two topics, which we kind of anticipated is about how to prepare for a spelling bee or on our vocabulary. So we'll handle those questions first, and there are a few more questions coming back, and I'll handle that as well. So Ananya, I will start with you. So I earlier said, some of the story about the inception of the SpellGenius itself. So Ananya has been involved. So I talked about it was a pleasant surprise when she won the Scripps National Spelling Bee, and then after that, because I know that her parents being part of our math classes, so I spoke to them and we decided to start the SpellGenius program. And we have Math Genius program is very popular, so we named it in the same tune, SpellGenius. Today we have SpellGenius, Vocab Genius, Math Genius, Language Genius, Science Genius, etc. That's our so it worked out well as part of the story. So Ananya actually helped build our initial program. Of course, it came a long way since this was 2017. It came a long way since then. We have many members who joined, including Rishik, Navneeth, and a few others who are not there today: Tejas, Naisa, Anisha, and many others. But Ananya is kind of a co-founder of the SpellGenius program because she was there when we worked on building the initial lists, building our initial curriculum. And so we started with just the classes first. And then we also have now two other offerings. We do have online classes in spelling and vocab, spelling at 5 different levels, as from SpellGenius Junior to level 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Vocab Genius are added this year. And then we also have what's known as e-modules. We have originally designed and currently use it as a supplement to our classes. So they're just given as homework every week. A module will be given to all the students to practice. But we will soon be actually commercially launching it for those who want to practice just as a subscription service. So you'll hear more about that later on. And we also, of course, online spelling bees. So Ananya has been involved in all of those. So Ananya, can you touch on how to prepare if one were to so maybe look at if somebody is a young student, first, second, or third grader, if they have aspiration for spelling, winning spelling bees, how could they start? All the way to maybe, I'm sure there are some serious spellers who maybe already have been to Scripps once or twice and they want to win the next spelling bee, right? I know there are probably two different extremes requiring different kinds of prep, but if you can kind of touch on how you went through for your initial journey and when you went to the final stage I think you won when you were in your 6th grade, right? So if you can narrate so that they can take some of those principles and learn.
Yeah, so it's important to build foundations in spelling. So you should start by studying basic words and vocabulary, like the consolidated word list, which is available online, and it's a long list, but being thorough with it really helps with vocabulary and building a word base. And then how to spell like a champ on Amazon also helps with good examples of language rules and patterns and roots, and those are really important concepts in the spelling bee. And it's important to not just memorize but to understand the stories behind the words and the rules and the roots and where they come from. So that's really important. So whenever you find a word that's interesting, you should look it up and learn about it and connect it to other words and look up other words with that root. And even for young spellers, that can be important for building foundations and connections for long-term knowledge. And then reading is also really important for building a base in vocabulary and spelling. And the book Words of Wisdom, once you're thorough with consolidated word list, has language rules and patterns and tons of example words for roots. And again, it's long, but being thorough with it and knowing all the words and concepts is important for building a good foundation and learning less well-known words. And then once you've gone beyond the published lists, it's important to start learning about smaller languages and making your own list, because making your own list really helps you learn the words on a deeper level. And then as you connect the words on the stage by language, you can think about how many words that are in that language and then only think about those words. For example, if you get a Portuguese word, there's about 500-ish Portuguese words. So you can only think about those words when you're on the stage trying to spell. And then it's really important to handle pressure and practice spelling under a time limit so that you can process all the information and spell calmly and make sure you remember everything that you do know. And all the modules that Ram Uncle mentioned have the lists that I made throughout my spelling journey. So that's how I prepared for the spelling bee.
I have a question. What is a good way to study vocabulary?
Navneeth, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, sure. So vocabulary, it's as I said, it's really intertwined with spelling. So like improving your knowledge in vocabulary, that's something that can also help you with spelling. I would say the most important thing is reading a lot. So especially news articles and headlines, those have some good vocab words. Like I think, yeah, reading a lot would definitely help you improve your vocab. For example, in the news, like 5 months ago-ish, around January, a word that came a lot in news articles was quid pro quo, like around the time of Trump's impeachment. So there are many great words that you'd see in those contexts. So reading the news and also reading other sources, that's important. Regarding lists, for beginners, a good starting point is the book Word Power Made Easy by Norman Lewis. That introduces you to important concepts like roots, how to group words together, stuff like that. Another good resource is SAT words. But yeah, after you're done and you have a pretty good foundation in them, the next place to go to is the consolidated word list. It has a great collection of vocab words that are likely to be asked at Scripps. And you should learn to find words there that are applicable to daily life. And then after you have a good sense of that, you should delve deeper.
I also have a quick question. What are some other good resources to help study for the bees?
Rishik, do you want to chip in?
Yeah, sure. So it kind of depends on your level. What you do definitely want to start with is the consolidated word list and Paideia. And from there, there's a lot of different resources you can use. What I went for after finishing the consolidated word list and Paideia was just using the dictionary, the unabridged dictionary itself, like looking at categories of words especially was helpful for me. But of course, you don't have to do that. You can always look for other resources. It just it's up to you and how you want to study.
Okay. Thank you, Rishik. There's a question in the chat. You guys starting new program for teaching too from Alia. Alia, yes, we do have the coaching program already, as I mentioned earlier. In spelling, we have, depending on the students' age group and their experience, we have 5 different levels from SpellGenius Junior, which is suitable for first, second graders just getting started, showing promise but complete newbies, to SpellGenius Rookie, which is next level, maybe participating in some bees, but still young, maybe, sometimes it's hard to go by grade. It all depends on how much you've already gone into the journey. And then we have SpellGenius Intermediate, SpellGenius Advanced, and SpellGenius Elite. So each of these coaches teach, as well as our other coaches depending on the level. And then we have vocab. We have a separate program that Navneeth designed and teaches. So this we have vocab genius. That is, I would say, for those who already started the spelling journey and doing reasonably well, you need to start focusing on vocabulary as well. And Alia has a follow-up question: when is it going to start? They're actually starting from next week. We have, so yeah, if you are interested, there is another, if you received the email, there is a link in that to, I'll type it here as well for those of you who want to register for those. I have a short link called bit.ly SPZ_VZ, or if you go to our website, mathisacademy.com, you will find that as well, but I have typed that link, so you can register over there, and one of our team members will call you and identify the right level depending on your child's grade, but more importantly, based on whether he or she is new or gone through maybe certain Bs, NSF Bs, school Bs, or maybe regional Bs or national Bs. All the way, we have levels like Ananya coaches 1 level, just for really serious spellers who already may have reached the Scripps and want to spend substantial time over the next year to win or be in the finals or win the bee itself. So we have all levels. Will help you identify the right level. Similarly, if you are doing well in spelling and you want to strengthen vocab, Navneeth has the vocab program, and Rishik teaches our advanced level. So we'll help with that. The next question is, will you guys host another online bee? Yeah, absolutely. We will continue to host, I think we're planning about 3 bees every year. So our next bee will be late October, early November, and you will hear from us. There are a couple of ways to make sure you don't miss that announcement. So if you go to Facebook and search for SpellGenius, and so if you like that page, we will post there, and whenever we post, those who like automatically get notifications. So make sure you go to Facebook, search for SpellGenius and like that page, and you will get automatic notifications. And another way is you can just email us, and we'll add you to the mailing list. If you are not already there, right? If you are not getting our periodic mails, just send a request out and we'll add you to that. So when the next online spelling bee is announced, you will get to know. Next
I
question.
can explain how the class structure usually works in case people are interested.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead with Ananya. I think several people will be interested. So if you can talk to a little bit, how does the classes work, right? So there are questions coming up on whether the classes are starting. No, we have been doing the classes since 2017, but Ananya has been there from the beginning, having designed the courses. So Ananya, would you explain a little bit on how our courses work?
Yeah, sure. So our classes, the SpellGenius classes, are a combination of spelling and vocabulary. So every week the coaches will do a short quiz that's similar to the Scripps preliminary test to help prepare students for the timing of the test and the similar format, and to get practice with such questions. And then the following week, the coaches will go over that test in order to review and talk about the best way to think about the words. And at all levels, coaches focus on covering language rules. At the junior levels, coaches focus on smaller language rules and building foundations with students. And at higher levels, coaches focus on covering smaller languages and exposing students to more obscure parts of the dictionary. And we also do roots and cover common roots and categories like roots for colors and anatomical roots and things like that. And we do all this in order to connect all the different parts of the aspects of the spelling bee. And then every week we assign homework on the modules from my lists for the specific language that is being covered every week in the class. And then this continues throughout the year for a comprehensive spelling curriculum.
Okay. Thank you, Ananya. There's one question that came in the private chat. Not everybody might see it. Since SpellGenius focuses on vocab, does SPG4 also have vocab? I think it's from a specific question for someone. Yes, the answer is, so all the SpellGenius classes will also have some amount of vocabulary, as Ananya mentioned. SpellGenius is completely focused on SpellGenius, going real deep down to make sure many of the serious spelling bees, including Scripps, have vocab as a prelim, right? If you don't do well, we have seen some spellers who actually got everything right in spelling, and then they still don't qualify for the next round because they messed up the vocab, right? So SpellGenius solely focused on that. But all our SpellGenius have some amount of vocabulary as well to balance between the two. The primary focus is obviously spelling, but we will have some vocabulary as well. Other questions? Just go. What is the best way to tackle the CWL? Who wants to take it? Any one of you three? Navneeth, go ahead.
Okay, so the CWL, or the Consolidated Word List, that's one of the most important lists in spelling. Having a thorough knowledge of that, that's integral to having a good foundation in spelling. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is through actually understanding the words and connecting them to similar words. So, because there's going to be words that follow typical language patterns, and there are going to be exceptions. So one thing that you need to learn to do is to know how to identify those exceptions and how to find more exceptions that break the rule. So in order to study CWL, I guess you have to see how words in the list relate to each other and how they relate to other words. And if you do that instead of memorizing, I think that's going to be really instrumental and it'll help you a lot. So does that answer your question?
All right, it does, Navneeth. So, and anybody can ask follow-up questions once the answer comes in. So there are a few other questions rolling back. Next question is, how many hours should we be preparing every day, and how should that time be spent? Well, I know it definitely depends on which level and where you are in the journey. But do one of you want to elaborate more on somebody who's young and getting started versus somebody who's really, Ananya, you want to take that question?
Sure. So the time depends on, of course, like our uncle said, how serious you are. But regardless of how much time you spend, when you study, you should be focused in studying. So I used to study in short bursts of about 40 minutes, and then I would take a small break and then study for 40 minutes again. So whenever I was studying, I would be focusing on learning the words that I studied, and I would remember them better later on than if I studied for 2 hours straight. So I would study for a couple, like 4 or 5, 2 or 3 short bursts in the morning before school on weekdays, and then more like 4 or 5 short bursts afterwards when I was really serious. And then I could cover a lot of words that I actually remembered. And then when I was less serious, I would study for about an hour on weekdays and about 2 hours on weekends. So that's a general level of time commitment, but whenever you're studying, you should be focused on understanding and deep knowledge.
Thanks, Ananya. Rishik or Navneeth, do you want to add anything? I know everybody has a slightly different way to do it. Is there anything that worked for you? You want to add? Okay. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Navneeth.
yeah. So I mean, there's no one size fits all approach to spelling or vocabulary, but it's you need to know what you're weak on and what your strengths are, so you can focus and study that. However, as Ananya said, something that you have to do is like actually understand the words and be focused whenever you're studying. Like for example, you need to be able to identify exceptions, make those lists, and group homonyms and things like that. So regardless of how much time you spend, you should spend it effectively.
Okay.
Yeah, adding on to that, taking breaks is going to be an important thing. Like, I get that you may want to just sit and keep working, but taking a break will definitely help you use your time more efficiently because, yeah, you'll be more focused.
Thank you, Rishik. All right, and going back on some of the questions, there is a question which came in a private chat. Do the champs have a dream college, their area of interest for college? So obviously this can vary from person to person. No, all the champs are also kids. So everybody's dreams are different, areas of interest is different, but it's a good question. So maybe I will let each of you answer your thoughts. And also, I know they're like my age of my kids. So I totally relate to them. I know they're like any other teenagers, right? But they're very focused and they learn the success journey, right? Like I think all of them spoke at some point. Uh, the success principles are actually same in respect of whether you're doing spelling, preparing for a sport, or for college admission. Doesn't matter. The success principles are same, and they all talked about what they learned in spelling, how they helped in their life in different ways, right? Ananya spoke at length about some of the other competition that she did after that, and the same thing will be true for the college or any other goal, right? Setting goal and working towards it is the same across. So and so my point is that it could vary. So their answer, what they give today, I know kids, and I've been working with kids so long time. I know my own kids, and these kids are like my kids too. So it could change. So don't hold them to what they say today. It could change 2 years down the line. But what are your thoughts now are, Ananya, Rishik, Navneeth, you want to, I know it's very private. You feel free to share if you would like to.
So I'm not really sure about my dream college yet, but I definitely know that I'd like to go into something with biology and maybe writing.
Okay, great. Yeah, the things will evolve. It's fine. If you, that's why you don't need to answer if you are not ready to answer, because things will change. And I've been seeing kids from high school, middle school. At some point, some of them are absolutely sure this is what I want to do, or this is college I want. And next year it completely changes, and that's totally all right. And the great thing about this country is you don't need to decide your major even until you join the college, or even if you decide, you can change in the first or second year of undergrad. So it's harder to change the college, but you can change the major for sure. So if you have any thoughts, you can share. If not, it's okay. Rishik and Navneeth.
I mean, I don't really have a dream college. However, I want to pursue something in medicine. Actually, the high school that I'm going to now, it has a focus on medicine. So Yeah.
Right? Thanks, Navneeth.
Yeah, I also want to go into medicine. Like maybe I'm thinking maybe something more on the research side of things, but I'm still not entirely sure yet. And I guess my dream college would be Stanford since it's close and it's such a prestigious college.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. All right. I think the same one also has a follow-up question. It may have, how many hours or words per day did the chance focus? I think that we already talked about that. How did they know they mastered a word and a language? How do you know when, well, I guess there's not a mastered. How do you know that you mastered a language? Would you know? Anyone wants to speak to it? Yeah, Ananya, Navneeth. Ananya, you want to go first?
Sure. So I had like a schedule of like all my languages, so so I knew when to review what. So I would go through my languages for like 2 or 3 months, and then I would go back and review it. And then when I was getting the majority of my words right without thinking too much about it, I know that I was probably pretty thorough with the language.
Okay. Rishik or Navneeth?
Yeah. So regarding languages, I also made lists of words from minor languages. I mean, there are some languages that have a very small number of words. For those languages, I would just, as I discover the language, I would just learn all the words in it and master them. But in general, if you're mastering a word, you need to know whether it follows rules, whether it has roots, or whether it's an exception or an irregular word. If it follows rules, you should know which rules that the word follows and how they relate to other words in the language. And if it's an exception, you need to write that word separately and memorize the exceptions because, I mean, exceptions don't stick to the norms. So you need to be able to categorize words. That's really important in spelling and in vocab. So for exceptions, you can just memorize the exceptions. And for words that follow rules, you can relate them to other words and get them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd say one of the other important facets of mastering a language is also knowing the influence of other languages on them, since that's one of the main stems of exceptions. So yeah, just like basically knowing a language, its rules, and also knowing how another language can influence the specific language's rules can really be helpful to mastering it.
Rishik, do you want to give an example? Because some young spellers and their parents are there, they probably would appreciate better what you said. Is there an example that you can give?
Sure. So let's say you have a Latin word. Most Latin words will have, for the f sound, they'll always be spelled with an F. But there are some words that came Latin from Greek, a lot of words actually. And some of them could keep the F, but a lot of them have a PH in them, and that's from the Greek. So knowing that that same sound is spelled as a PH can help you master those words in Latin that are also Greek.
All right, thank you, Rishik. Other questions? Well, these are some of them are related to class. How many students are in each class? So on an average, 6 to 7 students, 6 to 8 students, probably max 8. Sometimes it could be a little bit less. So that is the average class. But our philosophy across all our classes in Maths Academy, including SpellGenius and VocabGenius, are to keep the class sizes relatively small so that the coach can pay individual attention. Although these are group classes, they're small group classes, and we try to make the classes interactive, and the level of interaction could change based on the intensity. For example, if you are into SpellGenius 4, which is very intense, right? It's for those who are already practicing a lot of time and they know how to be reasonably efficient. It could be much more intensive. It may not be as interactive because you're covering a lot of stuff. The anger levels, probably it's a little bit more interactive, go slow and checking with the students if they got it or not, etc. But all of them we keep small just to keep it so that the coaches know each student well, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, etc. Another one, do you buy a spelling module? Well, if you are into our classes, you automatically get the modules, a new module assigned each week as a homework. So in our math classes, for example, we give actually homework for a set of questions, might be given as a PDF file or something. But in case of SpellGenius, we give a module in our SpellGenius e-module system. So they actually log in and they will practice those. We haven't commercially launched the modules for subscription yet. We are working on that. In fact, as we speak, we are updating our entire website. In fact, not updating, we are basically redesigning the entire website, including the application for the modules. So you will hear more about it in the next month or two, where you can just subscribe to either all the modules that we have, or maybe by a specific language of origin, etc. So we'll announce those plans over the next few months. Again, if you subscribe to our SpellGenius Facebook page, or if you are on our mailing list, you will get to know that. Any other questions? Just going through this. I think we covered most other questions. For the time wise, we are at 5:53. We have 7 more minutes to go. Any other questions?
I have a question. Those modules, do you have to buy them or like in the course?
So if you are part of our classes, if you are any of our classes, you don't need to buy. That's part of what you pay for the classes itself. You will get assigned modules every week. But if you are not part of our classes, as of now, we don't sell them separately. But we are working on making them available for subscription, where you can buy the modules separately. You will hear more about that. But if you attend any of our classes, SpellGenius classes, you would actually get those modules free. It's already part of the class.
I have another question. Like, let's say like we don't have someone like to like practice, and then we need like a platform like where like you call out the word or something. If it's like typing, do you have any suggestions?
Ananya, do you want to answer that?
The module, the way it's designed is that it pronounces the word, and then you can type it, and it shows you if it's correct or incorrect. So the module can be a way of learning words, a lot of words in a quick amount of time.
Did it answer your question? So so we have our e-modules. If you are a part of our class, as I said, you will automatically get those modules if you join any of our classes. And later on, we are going to launch the modules where you can actually buy those modules, where you can practice. Buy means it's like a software as a service. You actually once you we will have different packages, monthly or annual packages, so you can keep practicing. As Ananya said, as you start each module, the word will be pronounced. The computer will pronounce the word, and it will also give the language of origin, definition, etc. And you type the spelling, and it will immediately tell you it's right or wrong. And if it is wrong, it will ask you again later, and it gives you a next word, next word, next word. But if you got it wrong, it will ask you again later, right? So that way you can automatically practice. So you have a friend who can ask you the words, right? Just like in a real spelling bee.
I just wanted to add that you can also track your mistakes as well, and any weak words you can keep on going back to in like their own list too, when you are in your reviewing phase.
Okay, thank you. So Alia, just to clarify, you said your next class start. No, the classes you would need to join. If you are interested in joining, those are paid classes. So you would need to register for the class, and based on where your student is, your child is currently, our team will help the right level for your student. And okay, let me talk a little bit more. I think maybe it's not clear. So these classes will start now in September and will go all the way for the academic year until end of May. So these are like, we have some started in August, but most are starting next week in September. So 9 or 10 months, right? So there'll be one class each week at the same time. Let's say one class on Sunday at noon EST, right? It'll be the same time every week for the next 1 year. So where one of the coaches will actually coach on how to prepare. They'll actually teach the language rules, teach the root words, quiz you on the words, teach about the vocabulary, and take you through the academic year, so that in a full academic year you get really robust and strong. And if you continue the journey next year, you will go to the next level. We have 5 different levels. Hope that clarified the question about the classes. There are a few more questions coming up. Before that, Navneeth, can you talk a little bit about the vocab classes, because there's some questions on that. How do the vocab classes work? And I know they're slightly different from SpellGenius, so go ahead.
Yeah, so for SpellGenius, it's 100% focused on vocabulary and roots. So they'll sort of emulate the Scripps prelims test, and the classes will progressively get harder. There will be some words that have like no choices, so I'll explain them in great detail with the stories behind the words, the roots, and things like that. And then there will be a section of words that have choices. They will sort of simulate the Scripps written test. And we'll also have a portion of the class dedicated each week for roots. And we sort of relate them to similar words. And we talk about other words that contain the roots. So after that, the weekly homework, that's going to be finding more words with the roots, finding related words and stuff like that. So it's going to definitely help you in the long run, both in spelling and in vocabulary.
Okay, thank you, Navneeth. So the couple of other questions, this came in private chat. All of you may not be able to see from Rishabh. Haram, this is Sandesh, I guess. Sandesh is the dad. Can I reach out to you regarding the classes and when my son can start the fall program? Is there an email or phone? So I'm going to enter. So you can email support@mathesacademy.com. And feel free to copy me. I'll give my email if you already don't have, ram@mathesacademy.com. You can also reach our team. I'll give you our 1-800 number, but I'll also give my number. So our number is 833 for Maths. Or if you translate it, it comes to 833-462-8487. I'll also give my number in case if you're looking for a class, because starting next week, we don't have a lot of time. And your limited seats, many of them are like already getting filled. If you want, you can reach me. I'll give my number as well.
I have one more question. When you guys did your first B, how much was it like for the price for it?
Sorry, what was the question? When they started, how much was that?
Yeah, when you guys did the first B for like, I don't know when, like probably like March or something, like how much was it?
What was the price for registering them for the online spelling? I think it is $20 or something.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're going to do one more in late October, early November. So if you're already on our subscription list, you will get the email, or you can go to Facebook and like SpellGenius page, you will get intimated. Automatically Facebook will inform when we post that. Couple of other questions. Can a student pick a class to register? So, Rishabh, when you register, when you go on at the link, right, just inquire, our team will call you. We'll help you find the right class. You can pick, but also we want to make sure that the child is set up for success, right? If somebody is just starting second or third grade, and you want to win the elite class SPG4, right? Probably the child will feel lost and find it very, very challenging. So yes, you can pick, but we will help you pick the right one so that your child is set up for success. Couple of other questions. My school doesn't sponsor for Scripps. Is there any other way I can enter Scripps? I think the school, Ananya, you spoke about it, but for your own, I think the school will still need to be there. Sometimes if the region is not part of it, there is a program called RSVB was introduced by Scripps, but Ananya or anyone, you want to add to it? Or Navneeth or Rishik, you want to add to it?
Yeah, so basically you need to have a school that sponsors Scripps, and then after that, like having a school sponsorship for Scripps, that's fundamental. I mean, if there's no regional sponsor, then there's RSVB, in which you pay some money to Scripps, and it's a wild card program, and most people generally get accepted in. But yeah, you need to have a school in order to qualify for Scripps.
Thank you, Navneeth. What I've received similar questions from a few other parents from different parts of the country. The school doesn't need to do that. You could be the advocate as a parent, right? Sometimes some schools don't have it, but you can certainly approach the principal, and maybe if there are other like-minded parents, students and parents, you guys can go and talk to the principal. And sometimes it's not actually, it's expensive at all for the schools to register. I think it's nominal cost. I don't know how much, $40 or $100 for the
Yeah,
all
it's like
students.
100-ish, yeah.
100-ish for the entire school. There's like hundreds of students can participate. It's not expensive at all, but it's more of finding somebody who's interested, right? So maybe you can approach an English teacher who could be hopefully passionate about spelling, or the principal, or you could be and if you can find a few other parents like-minded, interested, then it becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah, actually, from my experience trying to start Scripps in my school, you need to find a teacher that's interested and interested in the spelling bee. And if the teacher doesn't want to do any additional work related to the spelling bee, like for example, my spelling bee teacher, he was coach sports teams and all that, and he was willing to sponsor it and be the go-to teacher, but he didn't want to coach the actual school team. So my parents offered to coach the school team in order for me and my school to participate. So if you can volunteer your time as well in order to help and make it as easy as possible for the school to participate.
Yeah, great point. Yeah. So this is one thing, and this is as applicable in any other field as in spelling. The school where my children, when they were in elementary school, used to go, I wanted a math club where they can practice math every week and go and participate in math competitions, which are only allowed through schools. And nobody at the school was interested, right? Then I talked to the principal, and I told them, look, all that I require is give one teacher as a home teacher, because I'm not allowed to run it, right? Every school requires a teacher to be a sponsor for any club or a spelling bee, etc. But I said, I will do all the hard work. I will come on every Friday morning for an hour, and I will actually prepare the students who are interested. And we had a peak of 30, 40 students. I used to go on every Friday morning and run a math club. Similarly, you could be the advocate. right? Sometimes it is hard to find a teacher who is willing to spend an extra time, but they're all busy with their work. But you could tell the principal or the teacher that, hey, can you be the official sponsor and I can come and do the hard work for you. And even if you don't need to run weekly or even if you run monthly or whatever, but you need to have somebody who kind of understands the things and then work with the school teacher or principal to get the school sponsorship. Couple of other questions. How will you determine what level the child is going to be in our class? Will there be a diagnostic? Yes. So the easiest way is actually you can go to spellgenius.com. You can go right now, anytime. And there is a sign up at the right top. It's a free sign up. Click on that. And once you sign up, there is actually a module, a free module. There are actually two modules. They're called test module or assessment module. Go ahead and take it. And that, so go ahead and have your child take it. And that will tell us where the child is. That will help us in determining the right level for your student. Balaji, hope that answered your question. Another question, this came in private chat. What is the pricing for individual one-on-one spelling coaching? Anvi, can you email me or text me after that? So just in the interest of time, we're over 6 EST. There's still a couple of questions coming in. So please do text me, Anvi, and I'll help you out with it. Shrihan, are the classes online all the time? Yes. No, they're always all the time because these coaches are all over, right? They're not in one place. So Navneeth in New Jersey, Ananya is in Central California, Rishik is in Northern California. We have Tejas who's in Virginia. So yes, these are all online all the time. And in fact, all our classes are online time right now, but spelling has always been online because we want to be able to reachable to every student anywhere in the country. And the only way you can do is online. Today, online tools are very mature. We use online whiteboards and there, so yeah, it works perfectly well. Probably we can take one more question and then we're a little bit over the time. One last question can close if there's any. But for those of you who are interested in classes or modules that we're going to launch a little bit later, just you can either email us or there is a link I typed earlier where you can just go and enter your details and our team will get in touch with you to help identify the right level. And to find the right level, you can actually go to spellgenius.com and have your child take a free test. And that will help us identify the right level for your child as well. All right. Great. It's good to have all of you. And thank you so much to our spelling champs, Ananya, Rishik, and Navneeth. Thanks for joining on a Saturday evening or afternoon, depending on where you are. And we will post this recording on our Maths Academy YouTube page. If any of your friends want to watch later, they can always go and watch it over there. Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of the long weekend.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye. Thank you for the opportunity.
Bye. You're welcome.